What does it take to become a legend? Is it a moment of blinding talent, a genetic gift, or simply being in the right place at the right time? We often look at icons like Bruce Lee and see only the highlight reel, the lightning-fast kicks, the magnetic screen presence, the philosophical quotes that have endured for decades. We see the explosion of success, but we rarely consider the quiet, consistent fuse that was burning for years before the world ever took notice. The truth is, legendary status is never an accident. It is always a deliberate construction. It is the result of 1,000 mundane choices, repeated day after day after day. It is the product of a routine. Today, we are not going to focus on the punches or the movie lines. We are going to dissect the architecture of a masterpiece. We are going to examine the single most important weapon in Bruce Lee's arsenal, a weapon more powerful than his fists, more precise than his feet. We are going to examine his daily routine. This is the story of how a man became a dragon, not through magic, but through the relentless, breathtakingly disciplined application of effort, 1 hour at a time. This is the blueprint. Most people live their lives reacting. They wake up, check their phone, and let the world's demands dictate their day. Their schedule is a defensive strategy, a list of responses to external stimuli. Bruce Lee's approach was the opposite. His daily schedule was an offensive strategy. It was a deeply personal, meticulously crafted manifesto. It was his declaration of intent to the world, a statement of who he was and what he was building. He didn't find time for his goals. He designed his time to create them. Every single block on his calendar, from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., was a deliberate investment in a specific part of his being. This blueprint can be broken down into 4 core pillars. Think of these not as separate tasks, but as the 4 bodies Bruce Lee had to build, strengthen, and integrate every single day to become the complete individual he was destined to be. The first, and most obvious, was the physical body, the athlete. The second was the mindful body, the monk. The third was the intellectual body, the scholar. And the fourth was the creative body, the artist, and the family man. Most people focus on 1, maybe 2, of these areas. Bruce Lee's genius was his recognition that true, unstoppable power could only be achieved by developing all 4 in concert. Neglect one, and the entire structure becomes unstable. Let's begin with the foundation, the physical body. For Bruce Lee, training wasn't something he did, it was who he was. His morning routine was a sacred ritual, a non-negotiable contract with himself. It began not with a struggle, but with a purpose. His body was his instrument, and his first duty of the day was to tune it to perfection. This wasn't about vanity. It was about functionality. Every exercise, every movement had a direct, applicable purpose for his art. His philosophy was one of brutal efficiency. His physical regimen was a symphony of different disciplines, each targeting a specific aspect of fitness. It wasn't a random collection of exercises. It was a periodized, scientific approach to building a complete fighter. He incorporated weight training for raw strength and power, using compound movements like clean and presses and squats to build a functional, athletic physique. Not just showy muscles, but he balanced this with an almost obsessive focus on flexibility. He understood that strength without suppleness is brittle. He could perform full splits and held static stretches for minutes at a time, believing that flexibility was the key to generating power from unexpected angles and preventing injury. His cardio was revolutionary for its time, while others were jogging miles, Bruce Lee was practicing high-intensity interval training before the term even existed. He would run wind sprints, jump rope in complex patterns at a frantic pace, and work the heavy bag in explosive 3-minute rounds that mirrored the demands of a real fight. He wasn't training for a marathon. He was training for a series of lightning-fast duels. This built not just cardiovascular endurance, but also mental toughness, the ability to push through the burning desire to quit and access a deeper reserve of energy. But perhaps the most crucial part of his physical training was the refinement of skill. He was a fervent believer in the power of repetition. The famous story illustrates it perfectly. A novice asks the master how long it will take to master a kick. The master replies, "If you practice it 10,000 times, you will know it." The novice, excited, says, 10,000 times. "I will work day and night." The master corrects him, "No, 10,000 times is just the beginning. After that, you can start to learn it." Bruce Lee lived this. He would practice a single technique, a punch, a kick, a parry thousands of times from every conceivable angle, under fatigue, and with varying levels of power. He was not just building muscle memory. He was engraving the technique into his nervous system, making it an unconscious, flawless reflex that would hold up under the extreme pressure of combat. This immense physical output required an equally disciplined input. His nutrition was Spartan and precise. He was incredibly mindful of what he used to fuel his machine. He consumed high-protein meals, often blending raw beef, eggs, and protein powders into shakes that would be unthinkable to the average person. He studied nutrition and anatomy with the same intensity he studied fighting, understanding that performance is dictated from the inside out. He knew that you cannot build a temple on a weak foundation, and the body's foundation is the food it consumes. However, to only focus on his physical training is to miss the majority of the picture. The second pillar of his day was the cultivation of the mindful body. After forging the physical instrument, he had to calm the mind that would wield it. For Bruce Lee, meditation was not a passive activity. It was active awareness. It was the practice of observing his thoughts without judgment, of connecting his breath to his intention, of creating a space of calm focus between stimulus and response. This daily practice is what gave his movements their renowned economy and precision. There was no wasted energy, no frantic flailing. Every motion was deliberate, conscious, and efficient. This mindfulness was the bedrock of his famous be-like water philosophy. Water does not struggle. It adapts. It does not force. It flows, and it is incredibly powerful. His hour of meditation each day was his way of returning to that state of fluid, powerful adaptability. The third pillar, and perhaps the most surprising to those who only see the fighter, was the intellectual body. Bruce Lee was a lifelong, voracious learner. His library contained over 2,500 books on a staggering array of subjects, not just martial arts and philosophy, but also psychology, drama, poetry, and cutting-edge science. He was a synthesizer of information, constantly looking for connections between disparate fields. He would devour a book on Western fencing to understand its footwork, then adapt it to his Jeet Kune Do principles. He studied the teachings of Jiddu Krishnamurti on freedom and compared them to the Taoist concept of Wu Wei, or effortless action. His afternoons were often dedicated to this deep study, to filling his mind with the raw materials of genius. Understood that to break the rules, you must first master them. His physical art was an expression of a deep intellectual philosophy. He wasn't just fighting. He was solving a complex physical and metaphysical problem with his entire being. Finally, the fourth pillar was the creative and personal body. Bruce Lee's discipline was not a prison. It was the structure that set him free. By being ruthlessly efficient and intentional with his time, he carved out sacred space for his family and his creative pursuits. He was a devoted husband and father, and his schedule ensured he was fully present during his time with them, not distracted, not still thinking about work. This balance was crucial. It prevented him from becoming a one-dimensional fanatic. His creativity also flowed into his work. He would spend hours choreographing fight scenes, not as mere action sequences, but as visual expressions of his philosophical ideas. He wrote ostensibly, developing his thoughts on martial arts and life. This pillar was about output, about taking all that he had built, the physical, the mental, the intellectual, and expressing it in the world, whether through a smile for his son or a masterpiece on the silver screen. In conclusion, Bruce Lee's daily routine was more than a list of chores. It was a holistic system for building an exceptional human being. It teaches us that mastery is not a single act, but a way of life. It is the courage to design your day with intention, to invest in every facet of your potential, and to understand that the mundane, repeated daily, becomes the monumental. His legacy is not just in the films he left behind, but in this powerful blueprint. It asks us the most important question we can ever confront. Not what we are, but what we are willing to become, one disciplined day at a time. The choice, as always, is ours.